So my recent video, I talked a lot about my Fujifilm x100f and I showed some photos. So if you want to see those, go back to that video. I just want to talk about some of the differences, like the biggest differences at least, that I find between the x100f and the x100VI. Now I do have the V in between, but I feel like the differences are a little less obviously between just the one step up versus two. I will say the biggest disadvantage I've found to reusing an x100f that I haven't used in a few years now that I've used other ones is the autofocus. Like, I will admit this one's autofocus is pretty terrible. It's around the same as what my X100 or my X70 has, which I do struggle with that sometimes too. So I keep this on single. I do that with my X70 as well. And I just have to play around with it a lot more. This one does not have a touchscreen focus either, which the X70 does. And I use that quite frequently to make sure it's grabbing what I want, but this does not. So, obviously they look a little different right now. Now, if I took the thumb grip and the filter off, you would be able to see the difference a little better, but they really are only slightly different in size. The X100VI is a little bit thicker, has a little bit thicker grip because they had to fit a bigger sensor and IBIS and everything in there. The EVFs look a little different there, you can see. So there are some different buttons. This one still had the D-pad, which I do prefer. So the older one still had the D-pad. Now they've moved to touchscreen and just these buttons. It also still had the trash button right there, which is super helpful compared to now. You have to like make sure you hit up here, which sometimes gets in my way. It kind of blocks the screen, or I block the EVF if I'm hitting it with this hand. So I don't love that placement, but I miss the D-pad, but it's not the end of the world. The grip is definitely thicker on this one, but I still use the thumb grip on this one just because it makes it feel more secure. Now when I take it off, it feels too weird to use it without it. I do have the LensMate one, so the LensMate one is nice because it folds so that I can still get to my wheel, which I use for my shutter speed. I can use obviously all the top dials to change all my like shutter speed and ISO, but it is slower. So when I'm trying to use this camera in more of a quick paced environment, I do like to have it set so that my front dial is for my ISO and the back dial is for my shutter speed. So I also have my ND filter mapped to this little button here so I can turn it on and off really quickly when I need it. And same with this one. I mean, you can even see on the top here where the buttons are, like that this is much thinner of an area than the other camera. So now, obviously, one of the other differences, this has a flat screen, no touch screen. This is a touch screen, but also is a tilt screen. So when you're trying to get like photos from a different angle or something, this is easier. I can't say I pull it out all that often, but it is helpful, especially when you're trying to do things like street photography. It's a little easier than having to like go like this or hold it up. I don't know. I also think that the screen and the EVF are obviously a little bit better, I think, on this one. At least to me, they look it. Now, the biggest advantage I have found to my X100f is the colors. And I know other people agree with me. The X-Trans 2 and 3 sensors had better colors, I think, and I know a lot of other people think this too, than the 4 and 5, which are the newest ones. I don't know what it is, but the colors are so nice. Now, with the F, you can still save 7 custom film recipes in here, just like you can on other Fuji cameras, but because this is older, you cannot save any names with them. So like you can't save it and then put the name as like Vibrant Arizona or Classic Cuban Negative or Summer Chrome or any of those. Well, you don't even have you don't have Classic Negative in here anyway, but you couldn't save the names of them. So you have to remember where the names are, but you also have to remember any white balance shifts, because while you can save the white balance and other settings, you cannot save a white balance shift to each one in the older cameras, which is part of the reason that I like to use this just as it is with Classic Chrome, because it doesn't have newer film simulations anyway. It doesn't have Classic Neg, Nostalgic Neg, Reala Ace. It doesn't, I don't even think it has Eterna. It doesn't have those. So the most that I'm going to use is Classic Chrome anyway. So I just always build all of mine off of that, and I just change the settings as I need to, which having Fuji has helped me learn how to set my own white balance and different things as I need them. This has less settings in it. It doesn't have like the color chrome effect blue or just the regular one. You have grain, but it's more limited, just different limitations. There's no clarity setting in this either. So just limited. It is a smaller sensor. This is 24 megapixels. This is 40 megapixels. So while you have access to the digital teleconverter in both to crop in, you're going to still get better images when you crop in with this than with this. Although, to be honest, do I notice that much of a difference? No, I don't. For me personally. I'm not blowing any of my images up or printing them though, so that's not an issue for me. This one also, if you want to use the digital teleconverter, you can only have your camera set in JPEG. If it's set in RAW, it will not let you, which I know obviously if you're in RAW, you can crop them in later. That's the point. But I don't really use RAW on my Fuji cameras anyway most of the time. I do shoot at least my newer cameras in JPEG plus RAW, so that if I need it, I have it, but also because I like doing the RAW conversion, so I can change my colors and settings and film simulations after the fact if I change my mind, which I don't feel a need to do on this one again because it only has fewer film simulations, so I don't feel the need for that in this one, if that makes sense. And then you also have IBIS in the X100-6. Now that's not in the V either, so this is the only X100 model to have IBIS, which very occasionally I will use video, but not often. I don't really do video, so that's not a big feature for me because I don't think it's ever really affected my photography either. Generally, I'm not doing slow shutter speeds, and if I am, it's a situation like astrophotography where I'm gonna have a tripod anyway, so I haven't ever felt like I needed it, but it's been nice to just be able to take, like, there's been cases where my husband and I have been on vacation and we forgot our vlog camera in the room or something. And so even though this is different because it's a much more narrow field of view than our vlog camera, I can still take little videos to add to that so we didn't lose the day. But it is a 23mm f2 lens on both of these. So you are limited to that, but I don't find that limiting. I like that. This one is definitely not as sharp close up. I have been doing a lot more, I do a lot more, like I try to take close up photos, maybe not quite so macro, but sort of. This is always sharp. This, it may look sharp on the screen and then I look at it later on my phone, I'm like, that was not sharp. I do have both of these cameras set so that this back wheel, when you press it in after, so if you're viewing a photo and you press it in, it will zoom in. Let me see if I can show this. Let's find a photo here. So I have this photo here, and if I press in on the wheel, it zooms into the section that it focused on so that I know for sure what is in focus, if that helps. That's just my way of quick checking so that I know for sure, like, hey, that person's face actually was slightly out of focus. I need to retake that. So those are really, I think, the main differences. I know there are probably some more subtle ones. I will say also, but that's all newer Fuji cameras like the X-Trans 5 only, which is what I really like about that sensor, are so much faster to offload to your phone through the app. Anything less, like even my XM5 and my XT4 are so slow. This one is on the old app only. It does still work on the old app. Unlike the X70, if you have an X70, do not connect it to the old app because one, it's not updated for it, but it will screw up your camera because it did on mine, and that's what they said did it, so don't connect that. This one can still connect. It is such a roundabout way if you guys used that old app and you remember it. Especially since I'm just shooting JPEG anyway, I just have a camera card reader and I plug it in. I plug my card in directly to my phone and just pull the photos off that way, and they're so fast. And also, for whatever reason, I know on the new app I can change the export settings so that it keeps the size and quality. I am not finding it on the old app, and I thought I had set it there, but I'm not finding it now, so I don't know if that's not there anymore because it's an old app. So now when these photos come off the app, they come off as 2 megapixel sensors, or like that's the size or whatever, or 2 mega, I don't know. They're very small, as opposed to if I pull them off the camera card onto my phone, they're normal sized. So that was another issue. But that's also like an easy workaround too. I don't know if that makes sense. I really do love both of these cameras, but like I said, like this one, I can feel the weight difference in my hand. This is so much lighter. It's so much smaller. That's why this fits so much. And like when I have to bring smaller like purses or things, like this still fits. Like this can fit, but I usually have to take the filter off and the thumb grip off, and then it's still a tighter fit. This will always fit because it is so much smaller. I did have an event the other day where they said shirt pocket size only, and I was like, this is ridiculous. They didn't even check my bag, so I really could have probably brought this or this. But I took the X70, and it turned out great. It was fine. It was for a 4th of July symphony concert. So the photos ended up turning out great. I still got fireworks shots. I was holding my camera so still with all my settings because I was like, well, this one definitely, I mean, being a smaller camera, the X70 is gonna still be easier to hold still. It was a challenge, but I got shots and we're good. But so in those situations, this does not fit in a shirt pocket. I did try it. I tried it on my husband's shirts. Now, would they have said anything? I don't know. But I know I've had people comment here that they're like, oh, I just tell them that my Fuji X100 is like fine to go in there. Or I tell them my XM5 with this little lens doesn't come off. And I'm like, yeah, I've had people tell me I can't even bring these in. So I just don't always risk it. So anyway, I think those are the biggest differences really between these two. I'm sure I missed some in here, obviously. Obviously I missed video settings because I don't do videos. So if you're interested in the different video settings, that's a question for somebody else. But like I said, the F doesn't have IBIS anyway, so I don't know that people would be interested in it for that. But those are my biggest differences, really, honestly. This lens is a little louder when you're like focusing. Like you can just hear it making noise all the time, whereas if I turn this one on, yeah, much quieter. So that's another difference, but I love them for different reasons. This was my very first Fuji camera, like the F, not this specific one because I sold mine and then I rebought it. This is the only camera I have ever sold and regretted and then rebought. But this was what got me into Fujifilm, so it's just a very special camera for me. So, and then my 6 is obviously my personal favorite camera that I use now, but it also was a gift from my husband last year for my birthday, so that one has a lot of sentimental value to me. But anyway, so that's why I love these. I took this one the other night to an amusement park while I could just walk around because I'm not allowed to do anything but walk still. I took it with me and just challenged myself. I was only allowed to have it on classic chrome and only use this. And I still love the photos. Like, yeah, could I have gotten maybe some better photos with my 6 just because of different colors and things I could do? Probably. But this was still amazing and I loved it. So if you want to see photos from my F, just go back to my last video because I posted a lot in there from when I first had the camera to the first night I had this camera. So